Hello, my name is Paul and I'm going to show you today how to plant a range of different native species. Now we've got a number of plants that we can actually put into our garden, and they range from grasses to reeds to shrubs to trees and even some of your bushes. Now each one of those have a bit of a different root system, so we really need to handle them a bit differently each time. When we have a tree like this, we've got a nice root system and a nice compact root ball. That's very good to plant. Your reeds are a very hardy plant and they can be actually pulled out, and those roots are very compact and very strong. Sometimes the roots are really tight in this tube. Give it a bit of a squeeze like that and just you can pull it out. That can be recycled, so that's fantastic. And if you want to, you can actually even split that in part. You won't damage them, you won't hurt them. So your grasses sometimes are very similar. They have what's called a matted root system. And when we look at them, they can be planted quite easily. Sometimes you have a situation where the roots are overgrown and these can be actually cut off before you plant them. And we also have the lilies, which tend to have not an extensive root system as the other plants, so you have to be very careful when you're planting those. Although it looks fairly small, it's actually best to plant them when they're small. The problem with them is that when you tap them out, you'll find it can just fall apart like that. And and you think, oh gee, this is the end of the plant, but you just need to put them in as well as you can and then do your backfilling straight away. But you have to be careful not to get plants that have grown too much for their actual root system. So this has got a really big top section and quite a small root section, so if you actually plant this plant it may not take off. So you're best off to find plants that have a good balance between the roots and the top section. The best tool to use when digging a hole, a sharp spade, and it has to be, say, twice the size of the pot. Find out where it's going to go, and then you can just mark it up like that, take your plant away, and then dig your hole. Now the other important thing is the actual depth of the hole. So you place your plant in there and try to get a guide. So you need it to be just the right depth. Now it's a good idea just to flick some of the top layer of that growing media into the bottom of the hole, so you flick off any weed seeds that might be growing. So just gently go around the side of the hole, drop a layer of soil into that hole like that. It starts to create that well or dish that we're going to end up with to capture water when we're irrigating or when it's raining. And then you have to firm it down quite nicely, and then you can start to bring some of that other soil back in and then firm it down again. Keep on shaping it a bit so you start to get that well, and that's starting to finish off quite nicely now. So the next step is, now the plant's in the ground, is to water it in. Don't spray it, but you need to put the water on very slowly. Place the water in, and I go around in a circle like that. That not only reinforces the shape of the bowl, but it allows the water to soak down. You keep adding water until there's no bubbles left, because what you want to do is you want the soil to settle down into that hole. It's the basic technique you use for planting most tube stock, and if you do that, the plant should be well on its way. The next step that a lot of people do is put mulch around their plants. You've got a variety of mulches we can use. We can use organic ones such as bark chips like this, or we can use inorganic ones, which are small pebbles or larger rocks, natural fibre matting, or even plastic does a pretty good job. Now the main reason why we use mulches is to suppress weeds and keep the moisture in around your plant. When you place it around your plant, you leave a gap right at the stem there. If you put this mulch right up to the stem, you could cause what's called collar rot. So there we have it, a nicely mulched little plant. Now the last thing you can do to finish off the planting is you can put a tree guard around it. They provide protection from wind and sometimes from shade, and also from small animals like rabbits. This one here is called a core flute. Make sure that you get the plant inside there, and you can slip it over, and in this case we're going to use 2 stakes to hold it all in place, and we can just tap it in place with a mallet, tap it in. But the most important thing when you're putting this up is that you don't put the stake through the root ball again. And when that's all in place, the plant should have a fairly good start in life. Now we've seen how to successfully plant tube stock today, but the big take-home message is take your time, do it step by step, because if you rush it you can damage the roots, and that's going to put the plant back for weeks if not months, and the plant may struggle for a really long time. And that's how you successfully plant tube stock. Thank you.